Time seemed to warp, to stretch and compress. The advancing German Grenadier, his face now visible beneath the rim of his Stahlhelm, young, stern, oblivious, took another step. The Panzer IV behind him idled, its engine a throbbing beast, its cannon a malevolent eye. My arm, raised to signal, felt impossibly heavy. Every instinct haunted by years of war screamed at the futility of it, the sheer audacity of 7 men challenging this steel tide.
But then I saw Dimitri's face, chalk white, but his knuckles white on the ammo pan he was steadying for Vasily. I saw Vasily, his jaw clenched, his gaze unwavering down the barrel of the DP-28. I saw Kostya already sighting his Mosin, a silent promise of deadly accuracy. Even Pyotr, huddled low, had a strange kind of calm on his face, the calm of accepted fate. They were waiting for me, for the wolf.
My hand dropped.
Now! The word was torn from my throat, raw and desperate.
The world exploded.
Vasily's DP-28 roared to life, a guttural, hammering cough that ripped through the frozen silence. The distinctive sound of the record player, as the Germans called it, spat a stream of tracers towards the advancing Grenadiers. I saw 2 of them stumble, then fall, their surprised cries swallowed by the sudden cacophony. Dmitri, bless his terrified heart, was already swapping out the first nearly empty pan with a speed born of pure adrenaline, his earlier fumbling forgotten.
"Fire!" I yelled again, adding my own PPSH-41 to the din, spraying the tree line where more German infantry were emerging. The staccato bark of my submachine gun felt pitifully inadequate against the backdrop of Vasily's sustained fire, but every bullet was a defiance.
The Germans, caught completely by surprise, reacted instantly. Some dived for cover behind trees or into snowdrifts. Others returned fire wildly, the sharp crack of their Kar 98K rifles and the menacing buzzsaw rip of an MG42 opening up from somewhere deeper in the woods. Bullets snapped through the branches above our heads, sending showers of snow and splintered wood raining down.
The lead Panzer IV, startled by the sudden onslaught on its infantry screen, lurched to a halt. Its turret began to traverse, machine guns sputtering, spraying bullets in a wide arc. Dirt and snow kicked up around our hastily prepared position.
"Kostya! Ivan! Pyotr! Go! To the ravine! Move!" I screamed over the din. Kostya, true to his word, didn't need telling twice about his targets. A single, distinct crack from his Mosin, and one of the German machine gunners trying to set up further to our flank cried out and slumped over his weapon. He worked the bolt with an unhurried, deadly rhythm. Ivan was already up, grabbing Pyotr by the arm and hauling him towards the thicker woods to our west, the direction of the ravine. Pyotr, surprisingly, found his feet and scrambled after him, his medic bag banging against his hip. "Vasily, suppressing fire! Shift targets! Don't let them pin us!" I yelled, emptying another magazine into the general area of the advancing Germans. The air was thick with the smell of cordite, hot metal, and churned earth. Vasily, a demon behind his gun, traversed the DP-28, stitching short, controlled bursts across the German line, forcing them to keep their heads down. He wasn't aiming for the tanks, that was suicide. He was buying us seconds,
precious seconds with the blood of their infantry. A high explosive shell from one of the Panzers screamed overhead and detonated amongst the trees behind us. Too close. They were ranging us.
They're zeroing in, Vasily. We need to move.
He grunted, firing another burst. Cover me, Sergeant. I laid down a spray from my PPS as Vasily, with Dmitri's help, wrestled the heavy DP-28 from its position. The gun was their lifeline, but it was also an anchor. They began to fall back, crouched low, Dmitri still feeding ammunition, Vasily firing short bursts as they moved, a walking bastion of defiance.
Suddenly, Dmitri cried out, a sharp, choked sound. He stumbled, clutching his leg. My heart leapt into my throat.
Dmitri! He was down, his face contorted in pain, trying to drag himself. Vasily, without hesitation, dropped to one knee beside him, still firing the DP-28 with one hand, trying to shield the boy with his body. "Medic!" I bellowed, though I knew Pyotr was already retreating with Ivan. The Germans, seeing a momentary lapse in the machine gun fire, pressed their advantage. Grenadiers began to advance more boldly. The MG-42 opened up again, its fire scything dangerously close. The Panzers were rumbling forward. This was it. This was where small units broke, where men died alone in the snow.
Kostya, cover Dmitri and Vasily! I yelled, hoping the old hunter was still within earshot and in position. A distant rifle crack answered, and one of an advancing German NCOs spun and fell. Good old Kostya.
I scrambled towards Vasily and Dmitri, bullets snapping around me like angry hornets. "How bad is he?" I yelled at Vasily, dropping beside them. "Leg wound. Looks like a ricochet or shrapnel. Not arterial, I think, but he can't walk," Vasily shouted back, his face grim, firing another burst. Dmitri was pale, biting his lip against the pain, but his eyes, when they met mine, were surprisingly clear. I can still load, Sergeant," he gasped, fumbling for another pan, despite the blood blossoming on his trouser leg. The kid had guts, more than I'd given him credit for. "No time," I said. "Vasily, can you carry him and the gun?" It was an impossible ask. The DP-28 was heavy enough on its own. Vasily just looked at me, his expression stark. He knew it too. Just then, Ivan reappeared, crashing through the undergrowth like an enraged bear. He must have heard the shouts, seen Dmitri go down. Without a word, he slung his rifle, scooped Dmitri up in a fireman's carry as if he weighed nothing, and barked, "Gun, Vasily! Ravine, now!" Relief, sharp and overwhelming, flooded through me. "Go, Vasily, I'll cover." Vasily, freed of his dilemma, grabbed the DP-28 and followed Ivan, who was already disappearing into the trees, with Dmitri on his shoulder. Pyotr was right behind them, his medic bag now having a definite purpose.
That left me and Kostya, wherever he was, to hold back the tide.
I emptied my PPSH again, then slammed in my last full magazine. The Panzers were dangerously close now, their whole machine guns chattering. One of them fired its main cannon again, the shell exploding where our machine gun nest had been moments before, showering me with dirt and ice. The ground shook violently. My ears rang. I fell back, firing as I went, a desperate one-man rearguard. Each tree became temporary cover. Each burst from my PPSH was a prayer for a few more seconds. I could hear Kostya's rifle cracking sporadically to my right, always picking a target, making them hesitate. The forest was a maelstrom of noise, fear, and flying steel. I saw German Grenadiers flanking, trying to cut off our retreat to the west. I had to keep them occupied, draw their fire. Then, through a gap in the trees, I saw it. What Kostya had warned about. Bigger, lower slung, a panther. Its long, deadly 75mm KK-42 cannon seemed to scan the forest with predatory intelligence. And behind it, the distinct, boxy silhouette of a tiger. Its dreaded 88mm gun, an absolute promise of annihilation.
My blood turned to ice water. This wasn't just a probe. This was a spearhead, a major push. And we were directly in its path. 7 fleas trying to redirect an elephant. I reached the lip of what I prayed was the ravine Ivan had led the others to. It was a steep, snow-choked drop, perhaps 10 meters deep, offering good cover on the far side if we could make it across. I could hear Ivan and Vasily scrambling down the opposite bank.
I turned for one last burst, aimed high at the advancing Grenadiers to keep their heads down, then threw myself over the edge, tumbling and sliding down the snowy slope in a chaotic descent, my PPS flying from my grip. I landed hard at the bottom, the breath knocked out of me, stars briefly exploding behind my eyes. The fight wasn't over. It was just changing terrain. And with panthers and tigers joining the fray, the devil's anvil was just getting heated up.